was just a little backed up. It needed a good fleshing out. You don't like that?
No, it's actually funny.
Yeah.
Did you see you now have a rubber baby buggy bumper?
What?
I gave you a rubber baby buggy bumper to try to keep the sound from traveling.
Oh.
If it hits the table.
I stopped thumping the table a long time ago. So
I know, but...
Well, you were really worried about the wood one day. I remember there's 2 pieces of wood.
And I'm not even going to tell you about the third one.
Oh, no, please. Let's spare the audience the third piece of wood story. Well, should we greet our audience? It's hello, my name is Nancy.
I'm Scott.
And we're coming back after a little bit of a hiatus. A lot of stuff going on.
You're supposed to welcome back to still in here?
No, that's like some disco.
I'm trying to stop.
Disco, wow.
I think it reset it. It reset those two. I thought maybe we'd get welcome back.
Yeah, the machine is just doing whatever it wants. It's sometimes it's recording, sometimes it's not. We had to do a little bit of a purge, had to do a little bit of a factory reset.
Lost
Scott
an episode.
had to do all that stuff because I don't know and I'm not learning. So
I only look like I don't know what I'm doing.
That's not true.
I try.
Well, anyway, here we are.
Well, anyway, enough about you. Let's talk about me.
No, let's talk about me. Oh, so let's talk about this.
What's going on in your world?
I dropped with my students the other day. Let's talk about me.
Has class started already?
Oh, of course it has. It started late August.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, because when we were on campus, there were students there the other day.
We're in 4th week.
Never mind.
What are you
Never
doing,
mind.
snoozing? Well, so I don't know. I was talking.
I'm out of academia. I don't care anymore.
I was talking about frenemies or whatever to my students, and they were kind of chuckling. And I dropped the Toby Keith song. I said, "Let's talk about me." And you know what?
I
have 8 students in my class. None of them knew what I was talking about.
I wouldn't know what you're talking about.
You never heard the Toby Keith song, Let's Talk About Me?
I know he's country, and I don't listen to country.
Oh, but it's a classic song.
Evidently not that classic.
Okay. Well, so you're right with
Probably classic if you listen to country.
You're right with
maybe.
the kids. But hey, guess what else they
Guess what else I did that you have no.
I had a Star Wars meme in one of my slideshow presentations about the topic was cognitive dissonance, and I have an Emperor Palpatine let
Anybody know what it was?
Let the basically the Sith flow kind of type thing. And I said, flow. And I asked my students who are my Star Wars fans in the room, and I have a small class. There's only 8, but not one of them was a Star Wars fan. And that kind of disturbed me a little.
Maybe they just didn't want to admit it.
Well,
sorry, it's the dog.
I don't really know. I don't really know what to say about that. Well, I would think 1 out of 8 would be a Star Wars fan,
and maybe maybe even more. But it's the same thing like with Star Trek. A lot of depending upon where you're at, depending upon where you are. People think that if they admit to liking Star Wars or Star Trek, then they're a geek or whatever. And
wow.
there are just people who don't admit to it in public because sci-fi, isn't for. I'm just saying. I mean, there are people who won't admit to it. Then you can talk to them later, and they go, "Oh, I love Star Trek."
Well, one young lady in the class did raise her hand and said, "I'm a Harry Potter fan," and I said, "Well, yeah, me too." I said,
you should have got Harry Potter. Stupid.
No. And then, actually, the majority of the class, they were Harry Potter fans. And
so you had some that were.
Yeah. I mean,
okay.
that was interesting. I don't have any Harry Potter memes in my class, so I might have to adjust. I took that, took that quiz once that said, what house, what Harry Potter house would you be in?
Oh, yeah.
And I got
with the rest of the snakes. That's the snake house, right?
So, I took it again because I'm like, I am not going to be in Slytherin. And I got that second time I got into Gryffindor. So I was pretty excited.
So what one was Harry in?
Gryffindor.
See, that shows
and
how
Draco.
much
I mean, Snape. I like Snape.
He was the snake. He was the snake guy.
I like Snape. He was in Slytherin. But I just thought I'd drop that little note about my students because we're going to talk about Ahsoka today.
I was going to say, what's the connection between... I was trying to figure out what the connection was between Star Wars and Harry Potter. I'm like, what connection are you making? It's like, oh yeah, you started talking about Star Wars. I
started talking about Star Wars. So we covered the first 2 episodes in the last podcast. Now we're on episodes 3, 4, and 5.
Zupa.
Oh, Ahsoka.
I'm just adjusting my notes here, so don't mind me because I'm trying to be a better podcaster, as we talked about.
Well,
okay. I want to someday. I want to be a content creator. That's what people can say. What are you? I'm a creator.
Wow.
Boom! I create worlds.
Jeez. K. Oppenheimer. Not about Oppenheimer lately.
That's kind of funny.
Well, all right. Episode 3 of Ahsoka. Quite a bit. I just want to say this. I didn't watch Rebels. I didn't watch Clone Wars. I'm really starting to feel like I'm a little behind on understanding Ahsoka because of that. Although we had this conversation, we
have, and I really wonder if it's the fact that I kind of jumped in and have watched some stuff and told you little tidbits here and there. Does that feel like it brings you up to speed enough, or is it no?
No, I mean, I'm just starting to feel like on life, like if you haven't watched everything, you're behind. I mean, that's just the way things are now. That's the way they're building things. They're building upon things that they've already released.
Well, that's probably why Strange New Worlds is so popular, because it's episodic rather than being,
Well, so gosh, this does tie into...
I have to stop us. Donnie! No.
This does tie into youth and students, though, because... clearly they are building upon what people probably in their 30s today watched as a child, 20s or 30s. Think about that. I mean, I don't know when Rebels and Clone Wars came out, but...
Oh, just 10 years ago? I mean, not that.
Okay.
That's really...
So, I mean, but they're clearly tapping into that age range, too.
But actually, okay, you know what? And I was watching an episode the other day, just because I was trying to answer something that I had, in the episode, I'm like, oh, okay, I don't remember that. And so I found in Rebels where it was. And I was thinking as I was watching this, and I was like, you know what? This is kind of, you're going to hate me. So I apologize now. I mean, this is the same thing with Star Trek Prodigy. Rebels, I don't know about the Clone Wars. Rebels, it's animated, but I wouldn't say that was a show for kids, that it was designed to be for kids. Because when you watch it, it's at a level above kids who just Saturday morning cartoons.
But it was written for kids because they had coloring books out. Okay, they had coloring books.
Fine, but I mean, but when you watch it, I mean, that's think about how many animated movies are out there that the humor and some of the dialogue in them, it's no way kids would get it. It's very, it's very much pitched towards the adults that are actually watching. I'm just saying, when you sit down and watch the episodes, you haven't watched any. And I'm not a knock on it, but you haven't watched any. And as I was watching one of these episodes, I was actually trying to think while I was watching it, okay, where would a kid get entertainment in this episode? And it was very much like a regular live action, the content anyway. People getting killed. I mean, just left, right. I mean, left, left, right.
Okay, yeah.
There was this one episode, and I bet there were probably no less than 40 people that got killed in that episode. And wow. I'm thinking to myself, I can't look at this and say, oh, this is a kid's show, a kid's cartoon.
Well, and Prodigy did Prodigy did it better, where they were trying to make it for children. They're trying to get children interested in Star Trek.
They were definitely trying. You've said they were trying to get children in Star Trek, but at least with Prodigy though as well, they didn't make it to where it was almost condescending to children. The story and the way it was done would engage multiple age groups. Okay. But, I mean, really, when you watch it. But I'm watching this, and it was the third to the last episode of Rebels, and they'd be people getting freaking murdered all over the place.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I was like, if I had like a 12-year-old or something, I don't know if I would want them to watch that, because I mean, it was
pretty brutal.
Death after death after death after death. I mean,
Is it gory death or
no, typical Disney, no blood,
right?
but shot and killed, sabers stuck through and killed, kind of stuff. You know, no blood, but it was. I mean, it was battle after battle after battle. I mean, it was like Clone Wars style, you know, first movie
Disney,
or whatever. I mean, it wasn't
Disney's known for being dark pretty much in everything, though. I mean, they kill moms, they kill dads, they leave people orphans.
They kill Bambi.
I mean, like
Mufasa.
Jeez, the movie Up. I mean, gosh, this is a gut wrenching stuff in every show. So maybe Disney just doesn't care about children and their well-being, and they're like like Disney has never taken an adverse childhood experiences type survey like ACEs. They don't know anything about it.
The whole thing's based on Mickey Mouse, and you're like, they don't care about kids.
Yeah.
But anyway, so it just as I watched it, I was like, I gotta tell Nancy this, because this doesn't seem kidsy to me.
Well, and so let me just I'm just saying that
sorry to bring us way off topic there.
I feel it. I feel a lack of, and a part of me thinks, well, I mean, do they do this just to get you to go back in time and rewatch these things? And I just don't think I can do it. One of the reasons
I think it's meant to be filler between movies, because it's a lot cheaper for them to produce, 8 or 10 episodes of an animated series, than a full-on, theatrical movie. And my thought was it was always they were doing these things to try to keep fans happy in the interim, especially because Star Wars was so lost for so long. Because these shows were out before they not rebooted, but before they went to episodes 7, 8, and 9. So there was that big gap,
Well, okay, so here's what I also think. I feel like really truthfully, Ahsoka could be a movie. Ahsoka could have been one big long movie that they've broken into parts, but the movies are not making Disney bank like the shows are. They just aren't right now.
Movies making more money than the movies.
Right, but this is what I think happened is they started out with Solo. That wasn't correct me if I'm wrong. It wasn't first. I am Rogue One. No, it was Rogue One and then Solo. Rogue One was popular.
That was the first movie outside where they called it a Star Wars movie,
right?
As opposed to being
Star Wars story. They called it a Star Wars story.
Excuse me, you are correct.
So it went from Rogue One to Solo, and then I think they jumped the gun a little bit and recast, Harrison Ford, and people really struggled with.
You mean they jumped the shark?
I didn't say jump the shark. Did I? Did I say jump?
No, you said jump the gun. I was just checking.
They jumped it. And they recast Harrison Ford as, whoever they cast. And he's a great actor.
A younger
Solo. And I actually really liked Solo. So I don't know why so many people had so many problems with it. I thought it was a good movie. Had Emilia Clarke in it.
They were recasting. We talked about this exact same thing in the last podcast.
Not the very last one.
Yeah.
No.
Well, the one that didn't get... The one that was recorded.
Oh, well.
The very last one, because we had the podcast that didn't record.
Right. Well,
I just did.
Okay.
So the podcast before that, we did talk about we talked extensively about recasting. You were very pro.
Right.
And I was very anti. And then that's where you wanted to talk about Indian.
Indian?
And I said, which Indian? And you said, no, you said Indiana Jones. Oh. And I said, no, you said Indian. And you did say Indian. And I had it recorded.
Sorry.
And I may have emphasized that in the editing process.
Well, that wasn't very nice of you.
It is because it's funny.
No, it's not.
It is funny. The way it ended. I made it funny.
Okay, well, yeah. So, so I think that's what happened. And
I think you're right. It was a recast.
They're like,
People didn't like it.
It's too dangerous to try to make a Star Wars story now hit the big screens. Like, it's just too dangerous. They're making too much money out of these basically movies that are cut into multiple parts. Didn't and serialized.
Haven't they done it?
No, it was Rogue One, and it was Han Solo, a Star Wars story.
And that's it.
And that was it, because it was literally, they bombed at the box office.
Rogue One did well.
Yeah, Rogue One did well.
But the hand one, I think.
And it's the interesting thing is like Rogue One.
I know you didn't, but most people did.
And everybody seems to like Andor, but me.
People are pretty well split on Andor.
Well, I just talked to somebody, a good friend of mine, who ranks Andor number 2, right behind Mandalorian. Like Boba Fett, likes it better than the Obi-Wan.
Is this person able to see or hear or anything? I'm just saying. I mean, but Andor is split. People seem to like it or can't stand it.
Right.
And you didn't see it. I think you watched one episode with me. I watched
one episode. I couldn't do it.
And I somehow or another watched every episode.
I couldn't do it.
And I couldn't believe the last episode was the last episode because it seemed like the last episode the story was finally getting going. And it was the last episode. It was terrible. Mm-hmm. It was terrible.
So, getting back to Ahsoka here, but one of the things that, I would just say this because I haven't watched Rebels and Clone Wars. I don't care about Ezra.
Rogue One is 84% Rotten Tomatoes.
Wow, that's pretty good. I do not.
Solo.
I do not like. Silo. I mean, I have no connection to Ezra. That's part of the problem, I think, with Ahsoka. And they don't do anything really to. They don't give flashbacks of him because it comes from an animated. It comes from an animated show, so they don't really give flashbacks.
Who? I was looking up Solo.
Ezra.
Oh, well,
talking about the character.
Yeah,
Ezra.
Because the only Ezra there was like in the first or second episode when Sabine was looking at that little hologram.
Yeah, that's
who that was.
But we're trying, if they want us to connect to Ezra, they need to do some mocked up flashbacks or something. And so the start of episode 3 is retraining Sabine as a Jedi. And they're just, they're kind of nasty. We brought this up earlier. They're kind of nasty about Sabine's skills. Yet she seems to be pretty competent as a Mandalorian, and she's pretty competent as a fighter. What's the word I'm looking for? Like she's
a fighter.
She's a gunner on their. She's the gunner on their.
She's a competent Mandalorian.
Yeah, she's good at that stuff. So. It kind of bugs me that they're kind of down on her as a fighter.
Well, didn't they? Wasn't it Hu Yang that? Was it Hu Yang or Hu Yang? Hu Yang. Was it Hu Yang that said there's only been like 2 Mandalorians that were actually ended up being good Jedi? Yeah. Or did I see that somewhere else?
No, he said that.
He said, okay.
It's mostly Hu Yang that's down on Sabine. Because Ahsoka says, I want her to be her. I want her to.
That was the best line.
That was a great line.
That was a very great line. Because he was always, because I'm trying to think of what he said up to that. Mm-hmm. And it was about being a great Jedi or a good Jedi. Yeah.
Yeah, I want her Sabine to be Sabine. And that kind of,
she turns around and fucks her.
That kind of mirrors what she says later, too, in the Shadow Warrior episode with Anakin. Because I think she's trying to tell Anakin she wants to be herself, too.
I think you're right because because Anakin talks about when we are jumping all over the place. Surprise.
Yeah, well.
So, it's those 3 episodes. We're kind of staying contained in them. But because they're kind of like one big episode, really, when you.
Well, that's what I said earlier. I mean, it's like they've made a movie and they've snipped it up.
But I mean, just those episodes. Anyway, I believe it was when they were doing one of the. Yeah, it was with Anakin, and they were doing a little time travel thing that he was taking her through. And because he talked about his master, there were things that were handed down to him from that his master got from his master, and that he got from his. And he said that I'll hand down to you. Yeah. And so it very much is a
right. Yeah, she's
So I think think she's trying to find her. I don't want to say she's trying to find her place in the world because she's older than that. But I wonder if it isn't they're like having this because they were kind of ended up being kind of torn apart and they didn't see each other again until he had become Darth Vader. So there never was really a proper goodbye, other than when she said, fuck the, Jedi, you guys accused me of murder, kick me out. I find out I'm innocent. And now you're all, come on back. Screw you guys. And then she only dealt with them a couple more times.
And that comes from Rebels, right?
Rebels into, yes. And then even a little bit of the smidge into the Clone Wars one in there.
Yep.
But, so there was never really a proper, there was never really a goodbye that I recall between her and Anakin. It was just at one point she had a falling out with Anakin, and the next thing you know, he's Darth Vader.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's probably some baggage. Well, baggage is kind of like when you feel like you've done something wrong, right? So it really wouldn't be baggage that she's carrying, but it definitely weighs on her, I would imagine. Well, and maybe that's what this helps clear out when she gets to the end. And because when he kicks her back into the world between worlds towards the end, and then when he comes at her and he kind of does that flash between Darth Vader and himself, she's like totally different. She's like in ass-kicking mode then, and really, much different than she was when she first saw him and they started fighting, and before they went into the little history tour.
Okay.
At least in my mind, she seemed like she was much more centered, and you're not taking me out. That's the way I felt it was, but
lazy dog. All right, so there's a lot of fantastic fight scenes in episode 3. Ahsoka's fighting Baylan Skull, Sabine is fighting Shin, and
too bad they slow them all down for Ahsoka.
No, yeah.
I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself.
No, I mean, I really like Shin. I know you don't like her. I think she's really Sith, and like that Baylan Skull holds her back on being Sith, but she is
absolutely. She
She
wants to go down.
She does.
And become a Sith.
Yeah. She's going to kill someone. She'll kill someone before. I don't know who she's going to kill, but she'll kill somebody.
Baylan.
Oh, maybe. That'd be great. Now we're forecasting this out because she's probably going to get sick of him holding her back, and he's going to.
She was tired when she grabbed hold of Sabine, doing the old force choking her, started to choke her out when they were inside. I got to find out what the name of the thing is. And he had to tell her a couple times to let her go.
Yeah.
She said, I made a promise, let her go. And and then she finally did, and she pissed about the fact that she had to do it.
Yeah. So is she his Padawan then?
I think so.
Okay. Yeah. So he's holding her back, and I wish we'd see I call her Morgan Le Fay, but that's not her name. It's
Elsbeth.
Elsbeth. I wish we'd see more of her. She's pretty cool. And she's like a witch, and she lives in this golden kind of like spaceship that looks like it's straight out of Eternals.
The Eye of Sion.
Sion, yeah. She looks like she's straight out of Eternal. She looks like she's from a different genre of movies entirely.
I'm going to say this wrong. Dathomirian witches.
Dathomir.
Witches of Dathomir.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, there's just not enough of her. She just kind of shows up periodically when they need to move the storyline around, and
well, she's the, how it is, like that you watch a TV show or a movie and you think you know who the bad guy, who the antagonist is, and then you find out that's just like that's like the real antagonist is like 2 more layers down. Well, I mean, because we know it's going to be Thrawn.
Star Wars is known for that with the Emperor. Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of shows where it's like, oh, it's the bad guy, and now suddenly that person gets killed because then the real bad guy is behind them or something.
No, that's getting harder. Who the bad guy is getting harder and harder to understand because the way that they're writing shows now, with everything being so dystopian and anti-heroes, and for letting the audience figure out what's wrong and what's right. Well, they didn't do that in the 80s. I mean,
they're not with this. I mean, they've made it very upfront. It's Thrawn. It's all about
Knight Rider
Thrawn.
and the Dukes of Hazzard, and even space
You
operas.
Mean the real bad guy was not Boss Hogg?
No. I mean, yeah, the real bad guy was Boss Hogg, but it's like...
No, it was Daisy's Dukes.
Yeah, but still, I mean, it's not clear cut anymore. And there's I mean, and we were talking about The Walking Dead earlier. The Walking Dead's a good example about really, if you look really deep, there's no good guys in The Walking Dead. There's no good guys.
Oh, it's all shades of shitty and less shitty.
Yeah, because they're all fighting for survival, and the good guys die in The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
The moral, they talk about the moral oral type characters get killed. So,
or oral moral.
Yeah.
You ever see oral moral on Adult Swim?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's funny. So, anyway,
You're right. I like her. I like her too.
So now let's segue into episode 4, Fallen Jedi, then.
Fallen Jedi. I liked... Oh, wait, no. Yeah. I loved how... Oh, no, I'm ahead of myself. Sorry.
We're ahead of yourself.
Well, I am because
we're jumping in. We're falling into episode 4.
But I was already jumping to the end of the fall when after her fight with Balin. Because I just liked that little transition. So, anyway, so they're on... What's the name of the planet? Caesar.
Mm-hmm. Let's call it Seaside.
Seaside. Let's call it copy of the planet from the second Star Trek movie.
Oh, exactly.
That had
100%.
The red foliage. I was just waiting for a bunch of weird looking aliens that had eyelids that went 18 directions with real bad white skin.
I was thinking about a Discovery episode too, where they had that monster that lived on that planet, and they were trying to get it back. It was like an aquatic type like critter that was endangered, and
the space whale?
It was a Discovery episode. It wasn't a space whale
because they had a space whale.
It was a Discovery episode. It was more like
Discovery had the space whale.
Yeah, but it wasn't a space whale. It was something that lived in the waters of this planet.
Oh, that's the one that, what's his name, from the very get-go.
And his planet ended up getting destroyed.
Yeah, he had it in the hold of his ship.
Yeah. And it looks just like that planet too. Like this red tree is there. And it makes me wonder if that tree, if like where they're filming and if it's actually real.
It's all poinsettias.
No, I mean it's kind of like it's cool. They're doing a real fog or smoke kind of on this particular one, and I don't think that fog and smoke was there in either of the Star Treks. It was much more of a yellow place in the Star Trek Discovery episode. But,
yeah. Okay. Yes.
It's quite possible they're using the same filming location for all those things.
Yeah, Canada. Everything's in Canada.
Or Georgia.
I don't think they do any Star Trek. In the only Star Trek that I'm aware of that they've filmed in the States, like in the last 10 years, or even with the new evolution of Star Trek, is Picard, because that was actually done in L.A. Yeah. Anyway.
Right.
But Cetos is... So that planet where they are, that's actually the one with their space whales that have the name that I cannot.
So they don't pronounce. Look, and I gotta say, the face looks like a whale, but the butt looks like a squid.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a whale. It's a squid whale.
They call them space whales because the actual name of the fucking things are. Let's see.
They named it out. The pod is named a purgle. Star whales.
Yeah, but they've got a name, a species name.
Yeah.
Anyway, but that's the planet where they hang out at and recharge before they go to warp.
Oh, no, that's cool.
Of course, not warp, but hyperspace.
Well, now they're traveling in the whale. Like the whale just opened its mouth and they popped in there, and they're going to travel in the whale.
Just like what's his name?
Jonah. You know, one of the.
Oh, did you say Purgle?
Purgle. I said Purgle. Yeah.
I was. My brain was up my Purgle. Yes. Purgle.
Yeah, Purgle.
We're live from Wikipedia. I've been a Wikipedia for a while.
Wikipedia. Yeah.
I do like Wikipedia. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's like a kitty cat. Purgle.
No, let's talk a little bit more about where Ahsoka and Anakin are. What exactly is that place called?
The World Between Worlds.
The World Between Worlds.
And that would totally, like you, if you hadn't seen, I think it was shown once in Rebel or in the Clone Wars, but then several times in Rebels.
Can only a Jedi go there?
No.
Oh.
I mean, you have to. If you get the whole thing is about being able to figure out how to get in there, opening the portal. Like I told you in Rebels, Ezra opened the portal and got in, but then it closed right behind, and then of course nobody could follow him. But there was some dude that was working for the Chancellor. Working for not Chancellor, what would it be? The big...
Emperor?
Thank you, Emperor.
What?
Holy hand. Yeah.
You couldn't remember the Emperor?
I couldn't remember the term Emperor. I was trying to think of what the term was. Yeah, so this guy was like a scientist trying to figure out how to open up the portal to go in. and it was on a wall with a mural, with these gods gods that they have. Anyway, they were trying to figure out how to get in. It was on a planet that had a Jedi temple on it. The Lothos? Shoot, I should have written it down. Because the wolves, remember those big honking wolves?
Yes.
That could actually kind of like do their own space travel. Yeah, I think it was
wolves. The wolves can space travel too.
That's how they do. They can do like hyperspace. They can travel like hyperspace. They're giving everybody in Rebels of all the crew, they're giving them all a ride, but they got to get to like the other side of the planet. And they're like going, "Oh my God, how long is this going to take?" And Ezra's like, "Well, not that long because you can talk to animals." And all of a sudden, the wolves they really get going fast, and then they kind of point down and they plow and they just disappear right into the planet and come out the other side of the planet.
Wow!
So they do.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. And I thought, I know I'm going to do this wrong. I always think it's Lothos, but I know that's not right.
Yeah, it is. I remember you saying or hearing Lothos before. I wrote that down, I think, which is interesting because, Lobos is the word they should use.
Well, but that would be wolves. The actual wolves. But it had something to do with the fact that was like Ezra's home planet. So anyway, they're on this planet, and that's where this scientist is working, trying to get into this Jedi temple to get past in through this portal to the world between worlds. Because once you get into the world between worlds, you can go anywhere. Time or.
Well, that's if you know what you're doing. I don't think I
right, and Ezra gets in there first, and then closes the portal, and that's actually he finds Ahsoka. Loth is the name. Loth, sorry. Not low.
So the Star Wars writers were just like, we need a word. Oh shoot, Hoth is already taken. So let's just go next in the alphabet. What a Joth? Does that sound good? No, Loth. How about that?
Well, you know damn well that's how they do stuff. If you're a writer in your writer's room and you're like, we got to get this shaken. We don't get this shit done. We're not getting out of here until 10 o'clock tonight. You know full well they're pulling stuff out of there.
I bet they miss those days now, don't they?
So
their break has been a little bit extended. I don't know how those people are doing. I feel for them. They must. When we come out of this, they've got. I'd say at least a fourth of them have had to have taken other jobs just to keep food on their table.
Now that we're doing our pop culture piece of this, or meandering through to it. That's what what's her face was trying to do. To bring her show back. In the news, what's her name? That was Firestarter, the original, the actor.
Oh yeah,
Thank you. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna have to get my inhaler.
Drew Barrymore.
That's why she was kickstarting. She was going to start her show again. Mm-hmm. She announced last week that she was going to kickstart her show again. It was supposed to start like tomorrow or something, and she cited exactly what you and I were talking about. I think a couple of weeks ago. We're like, okay, you got the writers and the actors, right? And they are actually members of the union. Okay, I've always been a union guy. I've got no qualms with unions whatsoever. I'm very pro-union. But as you had pointed out, and I had kind of like, I don't think I had thought about it. You're like, well, what about the makeup artists? What about the people? What about
costumers, props, set designers,
gaffers, every other one of these guys that aren't in that union and are not getting a stipend from the union, that are not drawing a paycheck.
Right.
How many of them are losing their houses and their cars, or getting evicted or whatever it is?
If they're smart,
can't buy groceries.
They're going to find another type of work to hold them over.
Right, but the point being, that's why. What's her name was like, what if we start the show again, even if it's without writers, they're working.
Right.
And she was, oh my God, she was met with just vile.
That's not fair.
And she came out and she reversed her decision. They're not starting the show.
Oh, are you kidding me?
No,
she buckled.
Just happened today. I think it was today or yesterday.
So what I find to be unfair about that is,
and she was crying and apologizing. I'm sorry. I thought I was doing the right thing. And part of me is like, well, you really were kind of doing. You were trying. You're split.
No, it's completely unfair because some talk shows and game shows are allowed to go on. Like I watch The View, and some people hate that show, but like The View and The Talk, they're allowed to keep filming.
I don't think they have writers. is the deal.
They do not have writers.
See, that's why.
She should be able to run a show if she wants to write her own stuff, which is like the ladies of The View are writing their own stuff. I mean, it's a talk show. How much does she have to write?
And that's how, nobody seems to be flashing back to like what you and I, when we were talking about this, I said, that's what Jon Stewart did the last time this happened. They started the show back. Up, but it was, they called it A Daily Show, not The Daily Show. It was A Daily. And you could tell there were no writers because the show sucked.
Right.
But guess what?
Well,
all those other people had jobs.
I'm sorry, but I'm missing the late night talk shows. Whatever is going on with this strike, and they have no right to hold all these other people hostage. They have no right to ruin the lives of the people that work on these shows.
And it's like, are those people no less dedicated to that show than the writers are? I highly doubt it. Right. I'm sure the guy who stands behind a camera, who has probably worked for the studio for however long. I get the fact that they want to strike. Okay, fine, they get to strike, but don't calling somebody a scab or whatever just because they're not part of your union, they're not part of your strike. They got to put some fucking food on the table, and they have an insurance bill to pay, and they might have a mortgage or rent to pay. They got kids in school or whatever it is. It's not cut. It's not cut and dry. It's not black and white.
Do you know who never apparently ever goes on strike? Social workers.
Are they part of a union?
I don't think so. I think that, I think our code of ethics rises above. I don't think it would allow us to strike.
I don't, state employees don't either. I mean, you can be a member of the union, but it's against the
it's a right to work state. In a right to work state. Yeah.
And it's illegal for them to go on strike.
Yeah, it is.
And the union is is just a sham anyway. They don't even do anything.
At least we have someone working towards our interests at the state legislative level.
And that's all they do is lobby at the legislature. Because as I've found, when shit goes sideways, they are not there for you. Because that's what happened to me. So
I don't know that we want to get all that personal, but I could throw down on that too.
I know you could.
We could.
Yep.
Yeah. If we are bonded by that. Well, anyway, so I get the sense that we really don't know. We're talking about this place between worlds. We don't know much about it, and really, truthfully, that whole episode is kind of just. It's just kind of like they're meandering around in a misty place and going back in time and memories and ages.
Well, the whole thing is, you remember Anakin? She's like, "What are you here?" And he says, "I'm here to finish your training." And that was, and she's kind of like.
She kind of refuses his training.
She does. You're right, and they kind of do a little spark with the sabers Olight,
which Hera's kid hears, which is kind of cool.
Which, a little later on, and I think she even says some of the fact. She says something along the lines of, you're too late. I got it all.
Well, you know what? She's old.
As he points out, but she makes a snarky comment to where I don't think you've got anything left to teach me, kind of thing. And he's kind of like, oh, you think so, do you? And I'm still trying to figure out all I can really figure out that he did teach her during that episode was that she is good enough to do what she needs to do. It was almost like if it did anything, it may have taken away any reservation that she may have had about being ready to do what needs to be done. I think what it did was show her that she is the person that she needs to be. Person needs to be Sabine. And at that level of a Jedi, because she was never, ever, ever declared she was never made a Jedi. And that's the one
true.
thing. Nah. And so I think what it did was it served to confirm to her that she was ready to do what she needed to do.
Maybe, and do you really need to be like labeled a Jedi if you just know? I mean, they know. They know they're a Jedi. They know they got the Force. All
that being a Jedi is that you've been officially inducted into the Order.
Right.
You know what I mean? You can be way more powerful than any of them and not be a Jedi.
Yeah, and I mean, it goes to she is a little bit different. She's made some different choices.
And they're Force wielder or Force sensitive people, that aren't Jedi. Balin's not a Jedi, but he's that in between. He's like, he walks the road of where he could become a Jedi or could become a Sith, depending. But he's got the Force going both ways. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so we're going to talk about that guy.
He's part of No More Labels.
Do you want to talk about Ray Stevenson now, or do you want to wait?
We can.
All right.
The fact that he's been in every movie ever made.
Right. So we find out that...
And I'd never seen him until...
Right, you had, though.
But didn't know it.
We find out that this actor who plays Balin Skull, his name is Ray Stevenson. He's a British actor. He's now deceased. And we're like,
Just this year.
So we looked up how many different shows he's on, and he has got
432 at last count.
Crazy filmography. We found out
what was his number, I wonder.
He was in the Thor movies as Volstagg, and that hit me because I've watched all the Thor movies, and he was in Vikings. He was in the Book of Eli. He played Blackbeard on Black Sails. He was in Dexter. He was in Rebels. He was a voice of Gar Saxon, which means nothing to me, but 2014 to 2018.
He was in The Three Musketeers. He played Porthos.
Yeah, he was in The Transporter, which is a pretty popular movie. People like that. He was on the show Rome, 2005 to 2007. I've always wanted to watch that show, and I never did.
Rome?
It
was good.
Yes. You're
talking about the HBO production, right?
Yeah.
It was very good.
I somehow missed that one. I watched all the Spartacus shows.
63 movies.
Jeez.
And he's got one. There's a movie that he was in that's in post-production right now.
Oh, my goodness.
Gateway to the West.
Wow. Yeah, he seems like a big guy, and it makes sense that he's playing all these like Viking type roles, and big. It's hard for me. Like, I watched all of Vikings. It's hard for me to even think back and recognize him from that show. So he must be, they must just have him in so much makeup and costumes.
Oh, I'm sure, long
changing
hair,
his hair around and
just
doing
like
all
just
kinds
like
of things.
Thor.
Right, but I remember Volstagg. I do remember that.
6'3".
Good, googly moogly. You know what? We talked though quite a bit about Clancy Brown in a previous podcast, and I think he would have been better in this role of Balin Skull than this Ray Stevenson guy.
Clancy Brown.
Clancy. I mean, we talked about him. He's got that.
Really?
He's got a small part in the first episode of Ahsoka. He's the mayor of.
He's
the mayor of the town, and
he was in a bunch of Rebel stuff.
Well, Clancy's been in a lot of
the
stuff.
same guy. I mean, and the character in Rebels looks just like him.
Yeah, I know. I mean, for me, like Clancy and Ray Stevenson are kind of interchangeable, but I like Clancy better. I feel more attached to him.
Not even having known this Ray Stevenson or thinking I hadn't, known him. No, I prefer him in this role as Balin. I wouldn't like old Clancy.
Of course you do.
No, it's just because it's...
And it's probably like Highlander.
No, it's because it's an unknown actor. Or to me, he was an unknown actor.
He's not unknown.
To me, he was unknown to me in that role when it began. And I liked that.
Oh my gosh, something just came flooding back to me about the Book of Eli. He played a really bad guy in the Book of Eli, and he was awesome in that role.
The whole movie was bad.
You don't like that movie?
I thought it was very not that good.
I love that movie.
Okay.
It's Idris Elba.
I know he's not perfect in everything.
That's a great movie.
Whatever.
Well, okay, let's wrap this up here with Shadow Warrior.
So, I lost my place. So, great fight scene, I think, between Ahsoka and Balin. Mm-hmm. That they have. Sabine, you effing bitch.
We're talking about episode 5, Shadow Warrior.
Shit, I'm on 4, sorry.
Yeah.
I did a rewind. Apologies.
That's okay. No, this was mostly about Ahsoka and Anakin.
Absolutely, it was.
And we talk about Darth. I mean, we see shades of Darth. We mentioned how his lightsaber changes color a couple times. His eyes change color. Because I was like, ooh, look, he's looking kind of zombie-fied there for a while.
I still want to know what the point. There has to be some. If we don't know it. Excuse me, if we don't know it or not. There's something about her changing her clothes colors. Because she's been in gray, and then suddenly, boop, she becomes Gandalf the White, as everybody keeps talking about.
So here's
there's
the deal.
Something about. Do you think that's because of the personal revelation that she maybe gained after fighting Anakin? That she's kind of like a new something or other,
no, I think
reborn
she just
or
changed
some
clothes. They gave her white clothes.
She finally found what she had done with her OxyClean or something.
Well, I mean, she was in the ocean. They pulled her out of the ocean and they gave her new clothes.
Little saltwater bleach down there. They kind of... No, I mean, I think there's... I've never seen her in white. In Mandalorian, well, I guess it actually would have been Boba Fett. Yeah, all of it. She's always been in a gray or a darker color. This is the first time she's been in white.
She's found herself, and she's like, I'm a good guy. I was trained by Darth Vader, and I'm a good guy. I'm going to wear white.
But I'm serious. That's.
I'm going to match my lightsaber.
Like you said, found herself. Her fucking lightsabers are awesome. I love her lightsabers.
I didn't even. Well, you could be right. You could be right about that. I didn't.
I'm guessing. I'm guessing. Just the internet keeps talking about goddamn Gandalf the White. Going from Gandalf the Grey to Gandalf the White when he became like powerful again. Is that what it was? I never really kept up too much on the elves movies. I've seen them, but I watched them for the entertainment factor, not for any of the backstory.
I mean, what was Sauron? What was Sauron wearing?
Who's Sauron?
Isn't Sauron the bad guy in The Lord of the Rings?
Wasn't the bad guy like the eye?
Yeah, the eye of Sauron. Is it Sauron or Sauron?
I have fucking no idea.
Sauerkraut?
It's a fiery eye up in the...
Well, yeah.
So wearing Sauron. Nothing, I guess. It was just an eyeball.
Well, but there's a bad wizard attached to Sauron.
Oh, you mean the other wizard? That was that other guy, the other old actor guy.
He's got a name. What was his name?
I don't know. Bad wizard guy.
The other wizard.
What was the name of the movies?
Geez, The Lord of the Rings.
Oh, yeah.
The Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit,
the Rings,
Lord of the Rings,
Wizards,
Gandalf, and it was
Saruman the White.
Saruman, okay.
Saruman the White.
And
well, Gandalf becomes white too. So you probably already know about Gandalf the Grey. So why did he become Gandalf the White?
Well, you know what though? Why are people tying the Lord of the Rings to Ahsoka? Let's just talk about that. Why do they need to do that?
Well, part of it is because of the producer. I told you he did it. You haven't seen that. So let's go. Let's see. So we go Ahsoka because it's what the hell is his name? It's Dave. No,
Peter Jackson is the director.
Dave. Well, you have different directors for each episode, but Dave Filoni. So if we go Dave Filoni, Gandalf. There's this drawing that he did. Oh, Filoni has compared Ahsoka in the upcoming series to blah, blah, blah. I just want to find this picture. Here it is right here. So this is a sketch that he did. People thought I was dead too. And then what is it? Okay. Look how that turned out. That's like a sketch that he did.
Yeah, okay. So we got...
So
Gandalf he's talking to Ahsoka.
Yeah, so he's like making this tie-in.
And that's like the inner workings of one human's mind, and that's just such a thing to run with that.
But it's probably him kind of going, I wonder if I did this.
And truthfully, you know what I mean? There's probably enough crossover fans that they'll absolutely eat that up and love it. Because, I mean, I'm sure that there's a healthy chunk of Lord of the Rings people that absolutely love Star Wars, too.
Okay, so according to Dave Filoni, it's why Ahsoka is Star Wars Gandalf. He's literally equating the characters to each other.
Okay, well, all right, you got it.
So probably the role they play. I haven't read the article, but there it is.
Yeah,
but probably maybe the role. Did
Gandalf get eaten by a whale?
I don't know. Who got his ass kicked by?
Yeah.
Yeah, shall not pass. That's the only thing I remember.
You know, one of the best for me, one of the best biblical passages is literally like I don't know the codes or however you find it in the Bible, but it's when Jonah gets spit out of the whale and he lands at the feet of all these people. He's like, repent. And that's literally like a biblical line.
Well, she's in the whale right now.
Yeah, well, yeah. They're in the whale. They're traveling on a hyper. They're in a hyperdrive situation inside the whale.
They're in a hyper whale.
Yeah, they're in a hyper whale. Yeah.
But you're right. The front end looks like a whale, and the back end looks like a squid. And did you see when they go into like warp? They're like their tails. I mean, this is probably did this in the animated one. I never saw it, but like their tails open up. You can see their
I see.
It's like you're looking like their cat's ass.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
Kind of into a star shape, and then they lit up and took off.
I like that. We haven't seen those. I mean, let's talk about the main Star Wars movies, 1 through 3 and 4 through 6. We never saw any of those space whales, did we?
No, it originated in the animated series.
Okay, yeah.
And I don't know if it was Rebels or the Clone Wars.
Right.
I just know then the first live action, if you will, reference to them was when Grogu was watching them when they were zipping through. You could see their shadows.
So what don't Star Wars fans get as worked up as Star Trek fans do about canon? Like, what?
Ooh,
they just don't.
That'd be an episode all of.
But they don't.
I think they do.
No, I never hear about it. I never hear anyone go, I didn't see a space whale in episode 4 Star Wars.
The whole of that Enterprise was too dark of a gray compared to the real.
Nobody's
they called them Connies because it was a.
I mean, they just there's definitely. I mean, if you're gonna split the fans down the middle, there's definitely differences. Nobody belly aches about anything in Star Wars.
Do you think that's because you just kind of live in the land of Star Trek more and you just don't hear it?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't. Because I consider myself.
Oh, no, never mind. I know the land that you live in and the lands that you have lived in and the people that occupied those lands. And so you're right. If it happened with students, you would have heard it. You would have heard it.
They're just more accepting
I am
of
acquiescing.
non-canon stuff.
Well, that's because all their shit is made up fucking magic anyway. So who knows what it is? Star Wars is all magic. See, that's the reason I like Star Trek better. Because first of all, Star Trek is based on Earth and science. And where would you go?
Star Wars is religious.
Star Wars is religious and magic and people that are a long time ago in a galaxy far away. So that's why I'm a Star Trek guy.
So
that maybe, but I'm saying is because it's religion and magic, maybe that's why people aren't so.
Star Wars is good versus evil, but Star Trek can be good versus evil too. Yeah, that's a little bit more episodic.
Just one aspect of it. Yeah, that's just
right.
Yes, absolutely. That's just one aspect of it. But you're right. Star Wars is, they even, I think in one of the first episodes, they even refer to, the Jedi and the Force being, their, a religion. There's an episode where it's actually, or a movie where it's actually referred to that old religion. But I think maybe that's why they aren't so wound up about it, because
maybe
you never know what it's going to be.
Maybe. I mean, I kind of would like to hear a Star Wars fan say to this this guy with his Gandalf tie-in, just shut the fuck up. like Gandalf doesn't have anything to do with this. Get out. I wish I'd hear that, but I don't.
You know what we're going to need to do before or when this wraps up and we do a wrap on the last episode, we need to get Patrick back on there.
Well, sure, if you want to have Patrick. We always want to hear from Patrick.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying that would be a good... because he's watched all those animated ones where you and I have not.
Well, yeah, just,
he can connect the dots.
I'm just going to have to be the person on that, because I haven't, let me just see if I can cram in, 70 of Rebels and.
Okay, but that's not what I mean.
I felt, and hey, you know what stinks is that I always thought Rebels was for kids.
Dog shit on the floor.
I always thought Rebels was for kids, and that's one of the reasons why I didn't watch it. I had no idea it was so adult.
That's my opinion. That's my opinion after having watched especially some of the latter episodes in the Rebels, and I was like, that's like I said, that's my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all right.
And, speaking of stuff that stinks.
Your opinion is valid.
Until proven otherwise. I've been listening to a lot of Judas Priest lately.
Really?
Yeah.
Turbo Lover.
Well, even some really early stuff before they were all dressed in leather. And Rob Halford had long hair. Looked
I
weird.
love Judas Priest.
It's like a gateway drug because now I'm listening to Five Finger Death Punch.
Oh, come on now. I tried playing you some Five Finger Death Punch a year or so ago. You hated it.
Not that you've tried to play me some of their stuff before that I hated.
No,
but I don't know
we
about Five Finger
literally
Death Punch.
played Five Finger Death Punch here in your house. I asked your AI to pull it up.
You picked a shitty song.
No, I didn't. And where were you when they came to the fair a few months ago? I had no one to go with.
I was right here.
Well, we could have gone to Five Finger Death Punch.
I just started listening to them.
Damn you. I mean, like, I had no one to go to that concert with. Well, so I didn't go.
I'll go next time.
Yeah, they're good. I like them. I like everything they do. So, good stuff.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to like...
I don't know how you got from Judas Priest to Five Finger Death Punch, though, because I don't think they're similar at all.
They're not. Five Finger Death Punch is more towards that, what do they call that? Rapid heavy metal or fast heavy metal or whatever. I mean, Five Finger Death Punch is on another, towards the metal that I do not like. Really. I'm surprised I do either. But that song, Wrong Side of Heaven, I really like.
That's a great song.
It's a very good song. So...
Well, here we are. We're at the end of Ahsoka.
So that's episode...
Well, we covered 3 through 5.
No, episode 5, and there are 3 left.
Yeah, that's a kind of a shame. I like this. I like this show.
But this is, me too. I think this is like a Mandalorian level for me.
Yeah. Well...
And I don't know why I've got it in for... The Book of Boba Fett, it's just not as good.
Well, I like Boba Fett.
I don't dislike it, it's just not as good. And plus, the Book of Boba Fett was like half Mandalorian anyway.
Is it over? Is there more Book of Boba Fett coming out?
I haven't heard.
Yeah. I'm just afraid because of this writer's strike that, we're coming up on 2024 and we won't see some of these shows till like 2028. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't know it'll be that long, but there's going to be a dry spell.
You know what I mean?
You are absolutely
as evidenced by like what happened with Ray Stevenson. People die. People die. They retire. Things happen.
The Book of Boba Fett season 2 is reportedly not happening.
Oh,
I bet you it totally, especially because of the writers. Because they have canned shows that were planned.
So did the Book of Boba Fett, I can't remember, did it end on a cliffhanger? Or it didn't. It kind of ended so that one season could be enough.
I'm trying to remember how it ended. Is it funny? I can't remember.
So here's the deal for me. I mean, if it's a Star Wars story, they can easily do the Star Wars stories in one season.
Well, and yeah. Oh, what is this? Post-credit scene of the Mandalorian season 2. Saw Boba Fett. What?
Yeah, they kind of merged.
Season 2.
They kind of merged Boba Fett and Mandalorian a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and Din Djarin was like in half the episodes.
Right. Yeah, because they probably needed Din Djarin to
so
get
was
ratings.
Ahsoka.
Yeah.
So
they're all blending together.
It really kind of is a... You know what fucking killed it was that stupid little... These guys, the little space gang on their stupid...
Yeah, those are bad.
On their space mopeds.
They were really... It was like Happy Days.
Mopeds.
It's like Happy Days. Fuck. This is not good. That was annoying.
They were terrible.
Yeah. They're like Ewoks. Ewoks. There's always characters like that in Star Wars that people just don't like.
Jar Jar walk.
Yeah. Well, there we go. So
yeah, we gotta wait for episodes 6, 7, and 8. It kills me that this. See, I hate when. So episodes 1 through 5, halfway through more than halfway through the season, and you don't even see who the main protagonist is. It better be in episodes 6, 7, and 8.
You're talking about Thrawn.
I'm talking about Thrawn.
But they've told us. But
if it's just bullshit
Thrawn.
where he's like the last episode, or he's got like 10 minutes on screen and that's it, and then it's all about season 2 or some horse shit. I do know that this is supposed to be like a jump start for one of the movies, because there's going to be like a Thrawn movie.
Oh, okay.
So this is, And that's the other thing is they need to bring, if they're going to do that and they're going to do a movie, they need to fucking bring Ahsoka into one of these movies. They need to bring Din Djarin in, to one of these movies. In my opinion, I think that'd be kind of cool.
Well, we'll see.
But see, Marvel doesn't do that either, do they? Now that I think about it, they don't really do any crossovers between their shows.
I think that there's a bigger issue here going on is people are no longer. They're no longer going to the theaters where we're losing theater goers all the time. And
you don't think it's kind of starting to come back since post-COVID?
I think it's coming back, but I think part of the problem is now they're either choosing to run it in the theaters or to stream it, and they're trying to play to both audiences.
But they're not doing so. Of course, stuff is going to streaming a lot quicker than it ever did before, pre-COVID. And then, of course, during COVID, then everything was like going straight to streaming first. They had to bypass movies altogether. They wanted to try to recoup some money. And, of course, now it's back in the theaters again. However, look at Barbie's already. You could already freaking stream Barbie. Or buy it or whatever. I'm surprised.
Yeah.
It's like they spend maybe 60 or 90 days in the theaters and then boom, it's to streaming. It used to be like 6 months to a year before you'd be able to, get it on DVD or Blu-ray or anything like that.
Right. Well, I don't know exactly what's happening. It's just, but we're going to be in another. What's going on? We're going to be in another situation like we were during the pandemic, where we just don't have things to watch pretty soon. And I think they're relying a lot more on these flashback films and these Fathom events and kind of like...
Oh, where they do replays?
Yeah. Like Goonies. You can see Goonies back in the theaters. You can see... what did I just go to? I went to... Well, I missed... Our theater didn't run They Live, but... Fathom events just anniversary. We've talked about it before. They Live, the Rowdy Piper movie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I just bought an action
the title. Yeah.
And I was so excited to see it back in the theater, and our theater didn't run it. It was a Fathom event.
Well, they do a lot where Fargo has it, but we don't.
Yeah. Well, it kind of frustrated me because our theater didn't run it, and they do all those other flashbacks.
It's because we've got one theater that owns the land.
Right.
That's the problem.
That's but it's a community that doesn't really support two movie theaters either. We're not big enough to support two movie theaters.
You want to wonder if AMC would still be here if it had been a decent theater rather than a theater that's in a shitty little mall.
I don't know.
If it had been a good theater.
But what they need, I'd love it if we had an IMAX or a super screen or something.
We're way too small for that.
Right. Well, here we are. Are we at the end? Are we at the end?
We're at the end.
We're at the end.
Where we shine. Because our endings are so awesome.
That's all, folks.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of that, that's all, folks. I went to the missile silo museum in Cooperstown, and there was,
I'm waiting for how this connects.
Went down 50 feet in the ground and got to see the where the missileers were and all the equipment that is from the 50s or 60s, and there was a painting down there right next to basically on the desk where they had one of the keys for the missileer. Yeah. There's a painting of Bugs Bunny in an airman's uniform. And we kind of walked around and we were wondering what's Bugs Bunny, and the tour guide said you're probably wondering why Bugs is down here, because when the big day would come, when they're going to blow off those missiles, that's all. Yeah. I thought that was dark. I thought that was super dark. But
that's what mutually assured destruction.
Yep. Yeah, it was a cool museum. I highly recommend if you're in the area to check it out.
I've been in it.
Yeah, it was cool.
Long time ago.
Can't even imagine what a day-to-day life for those airmen were like. That would kind of be annoying down there, but.
Yeah, and I can't remember how long they do a stand. When I was in college, there was a missileer that lived across the hall from me in my apartment building. Mm. So a current day one. So he would, go out and I don't remember how many days on duty. They would spend kind of like firemen in the same way, right? They go and do their thing and.
So the upstairs is kind of a time capsule of late 90s, 1997, 1998 is what it looks like. And then below in the bunker.
1936.
No,
yeah,
I mean, it's 58, 60.
Well, when it all started,
right?
yeah.
And
everything's painted that great psycho hospital green color.
Yeah, it was minty green down there. But what I found interesting was up top in the area where they would like watch for people driving up to the missile and
yep.
So just their viewing area. They had War Games in VHS sitting right by a 13-inch TV. War Games. I thought War
awesome.
Games and Con Air.
That's good.
Two movies sitting up there. And then right below it was the place where they discharged the rifles. It was pretty cool.
The funny thing, you always see movies where they get ready to launch the missiles too, and there's always like a couple doors that just kind of open. Or, they just take their time and open, or there's like a slab that'll kind of slide on over and go, and that is not how it works.
No.
They blow.
Yeah.
They slide, but at about 100, I mean, that cover, when they blow it and it opens it up, goes skipping across the fucking prairie.
Yeah.
It's not just a smooth little thing. It bang, and it goes bouncing across the fucking fields.
Yeah.
It opens now.
I did not know much about that place, and I thought it was, especially after seeing Oppenheimer, it was pretty interesting.
Did the Cooperstown Museum have too many boobs too? Just like Oppenheimer?
No, it didn't have any boobs, which was pretty. I appreciated that. No boobs, Yeah,
too many boobs.
Well, folks,
all right.
I tried to say that's all, folks, and then I segued. Wow,
right into a little bit of Warner Brothers action.
Yeah. There we go.
I think we need to call it.
Yeah, let's call it. Hey, folks, thanks for listening.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Have a good one.
All right, good night, or good morning, or
good day, or whenever you're listening to this. We can't end this thing. We got to figure that out.
G'day. Or how about goodbye? Thanks for listening.
Thanks, everyone.
Goodbye. Thank you, people.